cell phone extractions that were from devices associated with Mr. Shannon Stillwell or Shannon Jackson. I'm familiar with him by both names.
Was there a Audi that you see in this clip when you got there?
Yes.
Okay. How many shell cases did you recover? It was 31.
Yes.
What did you find?
There was a pink colored wool cap, I believe, in the back seat.
There were 11 5.7s, 2 223s, 8 40 calibers, and 19 9mm.
You are not suggesting that this is the white Audi with tinted windows that was rented to Shannon Stillwell, are you?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about that.
If you're new, make sure y'all hit that notification bell, that like, share, comment, and subscribe. Grab a seat. We finna dig deep.
Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host Jay, here with another update in this YSL RICO trial. Now today, we're breaking down the state's latest attempt to connect the dots using a new key witness, a cell phone extraction expert. Now, to be honest, this witness was actually sounding good for the state, but trust and believe, things definitely took a wild turn during cross-examination. And let's just say, it ain't looking good for the prosecution again. Will this witness actually be the witness that the state needs to seal this case? Or will this witness be another costly mistake? Before we dig deep, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, definitely tap that notification bell so you'll get the drops whenever I drop. Scroll down to all, and definitely tap the like button to help the channel continue to grow. And definitely salute to everybody who's tapping in. Y'all know the vibes. Let's dig.
Taking you to March 2022, were you working morning shift back in March of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to direct your attention to two separate locations that you responded to in March of 2022. First, I want to direct your attention to March 11th, 2022. Did you have the occasion to respond to I-7585 northbound and Fair Drive?
Yes.
And why did you respond to that location?
I responded to that location for a homicide approximately around 5.
Is that 5 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And why were you requested to go to that location?
There was a vehicle on the expressway with a passenger who was deceased and another male had been transported.
What did you find when you got there?
I found a grayish looking vehicle with defects all around the driver's side, the rear, and the passenger side, with a deceased male sitting in the passenger seat, front passenger seat.
Now, you talked about shell casings. How far did the shell casings stand on that highway?
I don't really remember too much, but I know they were before we hit the vehicle.
Okay. How many shell casings did you recover?
It was 31.
And when you recovered those shell casings, how did you package the shell casings when you recovered them?
Individually in a little coin pouch.
And what did you do with the shell casings once you recovered them and packaged them in the coin pouch?
I took them back to our annex and processed them for latent prints.
What caliber shell casings were they?
9mm.
Is this the vehicle in which you found on the highway when you arrived at the location?
Yes.
11 VV and 12 VV? What were you depicting in those 3 pictures?
The defects in the vehicle.
Now looking at 14 VV and 15 VV, what were you taking pictures of in those 2 pictures?
The defects in the vehicle and the damage to the window.
And what side of the vehicle is that?
Passenger side.
Okay. And is that where you found the male that you discussed earlier?
Yes.
Now, starting at 19 VV, and I'm going to ask you to look at the packet that's in front of you. That is in 19 VV through 51 VV.
There are photos of my casings.
Okay. And are those the individual photos of the shell casings that you collected?
Yes.
All right.
So as you see, the state is actually coming out early trying to set the tone for the day. But even more interesting, we're actually watching the state introduce another witness to the case. But with this actually witness coming up to the stand, will this witness actually be able to prove the state's narrative? Or is this witness actually just up here saying what she did for her job for that day? Now, even more interesting, by the time we finish with this witness, ask yourself this: what was really the relevance for this witness when it came to this case? Let's dig.
Was that the stretch of where all of the shell casings were on the highway?
Yes.
And were all the shell casings that you recovered on that scene 9mm?
Yes.
Now I want to direct your attention to March 16th, 2022. Did you have the occasion to respond to 2830 Waters Road in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes.
And was that about 5 days after the incident that we just looked at?
Yes.
And what time did you respond to that location?
Around 2:30.
Is that in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the March 11th incident, did you say that you responded about 5 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you respond to that location?
I was called to this location for a shots fired call.
And what was the weather conditions like when you responded to that location?
It was raining a lot.
You said
It was raining a lot.
What did you observe when you first responded to that scene?
When I arrived, I noticed there were shell casings laying in the grass area by the fence. In front of the fence, there was a little street. There was casings located in the street as well. There was defects in vehicles to the next door, the house next door. There were defects also in the fence and the vehicle in front of the house.
271 VV. Are those the shell casings that you spoke of earlier that were on the scene when you arrived?
Yes,
How many shell casings did you collect?
around 40, if I'm not mistaken.
And do you recall the type of shell casings that you collected?
There were 11 5.7s, 2 223s, 8 40 calibers, and 19 9mm.
11 5x7.
2 223s, 8 40s, and 19 9mm.
Let me just ask you about the March 11th scene that you worked on first, okay?
That's the one from the expressway, correct?
Expressway. Now, did you write a report regarding that case?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. March 11th on the expressway, we saw the pictures. Looked like a Kia Stinger on the right lane of the expressway.
Yes.
Okay, and the car had numerous bullet holes in it. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Who were the victims in that case?
For my report, I only have one listed, and that was the driver,
And the driver, what was the driver's name?
Christian McMiller.
Okay. All right. And your understanding is 2 people were shot and ultimately died in that case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know if anyone has been arrested for that case?
No.
No, you don't know, or no one has?
No, I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move to March 16th, okay, at 2830 Waters Road. It sounds like from the pictures there's a house on Waters Road with a wooden fence around it, correct?
Yes.
And that's what your pictures reflect?
Yes.
Okay. And when you arrived, it was a rainy day, and you were doing your best to document the evidence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there were a number of shell casings. I think you said you collected 40, correct?
Yes.
And were they all outside the fence?
Yes.
Okay. And you noted as part of your work that there were bullet defects, there were holes in the house, in the windows, in cars that were parked in the yard, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It was consistent with people shooting from the street area towards that house, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anyone who has been charged with shooting at that house?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Thank you. So, Ms. Brown, this brown paper bag is labeled 424VV, correct?
Yes.
And that's the paper bag that you put all the shell casings you collected from 2830 Waters Road, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you preserve that evidence so it could be later processed by GBI or other people for ballistics and things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
Not hits, etc.
Yes.
All right. If I am to ask the scientists or the GBI people later on about this case, what numbers would I need to know that we're talking about the same shell casings?
There were 40 cases, so it should be numbers 1 through 40.
As far as the case number, would it go by the APD case number, or what would be the cross-reference, if you know?
I'm sorry, I don't know how GBI actually labels theirs.
Okay, but you have it in the case number that you've already given us, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. One other thing I just wanted to clarify and possibly correct. We talked about the different shell casings that were collected, right, in a total of 40.
Yes.
Okay. There was 2 223s,
Yes.
840 caliber,
Yes.
19 9mm,
Yes.
and 11 5.7 by 28, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hill, do I have your permission to correct that? So it shouldn't say 5.7, it should say, it shouldn't say 5 times 7, it should say 5 times 7.
Yes.
And all these shell casings are for different caliber bullets, correct?
Yes.
And a gun wouldn't shoot different caliber bullets. A gun would just shoot one specific caliber, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not a ballistics expert. I
Okay.
just know they fire.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Now, the defensive cross-examination was fire. Now, all the right things were actually pointed out. For one, the defense led the actual state's witness in saying, what? I'm not an expert at firearms. Strike one. What's the next thing they said? All of the shell cases were outside what? Defense. Meaning that what? The house is actually being attacked. Strike two. Next thing they said, was anybody ever charged or actually picked up for this actual incident? Nobody was ever charged for this incident. Strike three. Y'all want to do strike four? Well, here's strike four too. While the defense actually had to correct the actual presentation right here in front of the jury. 5 times 7. Now, was that purposely done or was that actually purposely misleading? Ain't there a big difference between one 5.7 shell and 5 times 7 shells? So ask yourself this. What was the purpose of this witness? 403? Was that a W for the defense? Let's dig.
Technical Impact, how are you doing?
Well, thank you. Good morning.
Can you tell the jury where you're currently working at?
Well, working and employed, I'm a detective with the Atlanta Police Department. I've been with APD for over 22 years. And after spending the last about 14 and a half years in the homicide unit, I have also joined the FBI as a task force officer. And my current assignment is, as about 3 weeks ago, I've moved out of my role in homicide to a role as a full-time task force officer with the FBI, assigned to a violent crime squad in the Atlanta division or the Atlanta field office here. I'm also a member of the FBI's cellular analysis survey team after having gone through the certification curriculum for the CAST team last year.
Do you work with Agent Bernie?
I do, regularly and often, and over 1,000 devices.
Now, when you were with APD Homicide, would other detectives or officers come to you to help them with phone extractions?
Yes, often.
Did you ever have, or let me ask you this, do you know an investigator, Viverito?
I do.
Has she ever utilized or asked your help to extract cell phones on cases she's working?
Many times, in many different cases.
And before testifying here today, did you have an opportunity to review some USBs that pertain to some phone extractions?
Yes.
I'm approaching you with what's marked as 227 Victor Victor 1 and 227 Victor Victor 2. Can you tell the jury, or let me ask you first, do you recognize those items?
I do.
And what are they?
They are USB drives, one of which contains cell phone extractions that were from devices associated with Mr. Shannon Stillwell or Shannon Jackson. I'm familiar with him by both names. And the other is and I should say that one is States Exhibit 227VV1.
That's correct.
And then the other one, which is a silver and gray USB device, States Exhibit 227VV2, contains mobile device extractions for phones that are associated with Marquavius Huey.
Did you see any SIM card changes in the two phones associated with Shannon Stillwell or Shannon Jackson that you got in December of 2020?
I did.
You got in December related to Shannon Stillwell or Shannon Jackson?
It was the phone number associated with an Apple iPhone 12 mini. And that was one of those devices that Investigator Viverito asked me to conduct a forensic analysis of, and that she provided the passcode for.
Kind of take an overview of the location.
Yes.
And is this you walking to the mailbox to document the address for this search?
Yes.
Now, had SWAT already cleared the residence by the time that you started searching?
Yes.
Was there a Audi that you see in this clip when you got there?
Yes.
Now, do you typically try to capture the VIN number of vehicles that are on scenes?
Usually.
Can you tell the jury how were law enforcement officers able to get in this Audi vehicle?
You can see on the left there at the door, there's a coat hanger. The window was ajar, and investigators used a coat hanger to tug on the door handle to open the vehicle and access the interior of it.
Now, was there a firearm in that car?
Yes, on the passenger floorboard, protruding up into there's me, the passenger floorboard, the firearm was laying down on the floorboard and leaning against the passenger seat.
Now, after documenting the firearm inside of the vehicle, did you ever pull it out of the vehicle to examine it closer?
Yes.
I am going to publish 318 Victor Victor. Is that a picture of the firearm in the passenger seat where you found it?
Yes.
And what type of firearm was it?
This was a Ruger AR 5.56. It takes 5.56 caliber ammunition.
And I'm going to publish another portion of 336 Victor Victor. Do you see on the screen before I start this magazine and a firearm on the roof of the car?
Yes, that is the magazine that was inserted into the weapon when it was recovered.
Now, I'm going to play this first and ask you, is that cartridge you saw on the purple glove something that you had to get out of? Was that in the chamber or in the firearm when you examined it?
Best I recall, I could review my notes for it to refresh my recollection, but best I recall, yes, it was loaded with one round chambered, and it had to be cleared to extract that round from the chamber.
If I approach you with a copy of your incident report, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Do you find any other items in that vehicle that you documented that day?
Yes.
What did you find?
There was a pink colored wool cap, I believe, in the back seat.
Did you collect that item?
Yes. And I also wrote on there that it was a pink wool cap recovered from the Audi. And in the evidence label that I created, I labeled it as the brand Time and True pink wool cap. So at the time that I packaged it in this evidence envelope, it was a pink wool cap.
Ask you if you recognize that item.
Yes.
What is that?
That's the bucket of ammunition that was recovered from the attic.
Now, the state think they slick. Now, is it not ironic in the timing? Pay attention to this. Is it not ironic that you heard that Georgia just invested more money into what? An actual gang task force for violent crimes? Maybe his position was just perfect time. Now, even more interesting with this actual witness, one thing that he did come up here and do was actually join the state's narrative to mislead the jury. Talking about two different hats that don't match, two different vehicles that are not alike, two different complete colors. Then you sit up and you come up and bolster with a box of bullets. Well, guess what? The box of bullets didn't match anything that came out on any of your scenes. None of your scenes, the detective scenes, the investigator scene. Matter of fact, looked like everybody half investigated everything. So even more interesting, this actual witness is actually, in my personal opinion, hurting the state's narrative. So ask yourself this. If this witness for the state actually failed to help the state connect the dots, is it safe to say we still don't know who shot? Let's dig. Yo, stop what you're doing real quick. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit the like button. Share the video. Hit the like button. Let's dig.
Detective Leon Packer, good afternoon now.
Good afternoon.
Max Shard, we met before, but Max Shard, I represent Shannon Stillwell, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. I just want to ask you first about what we talked about first in direct, talking about the downloads of the phone. We talked about you were able to find searches on a phone that you download or extract the data from, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I should say I didn't find searches because I didn't sift through the data, but I'm aware of there being some links associated with searches.
So let me get this clear. You extracted information from several phones, including my client's phones, but you did not review any of the downloaded information.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know who reviewed the downloaded information?
I provided all of the extractions to investigator Marissa Viverito, who I believe conducted thorough reviews of the data.
Okay. But certainly there's a difference between someone, a suspect searching unknown keywords that no one else would know except them versus searching keywords after there's been media coverage, correct?
That's difficult for me to answer in the hypothetical because oftentimes as an investigator conducting this type of search of a forensic analysis of a phone, I don't know what someone knows about the incident or how many people know it, especially if it's an incident that I suspect multiple people were involved in.
Well, what if in that phone there was actual messages from other people alerting that person to the event? Would that give you insight as to whether they knew about the event?
The person conducting the search?
Yes. If other people had told them,
Yep.
texted them,
Yep.
sent them news articles in their phone.
Yes and no. Yes, and that it would give me insight that there's evidence in the phone of the person operating the phone likely receiving information in that text message that, hey, this incident occurred. But no, in that I've worked many homicide cases where I see people that that I did charge with participation in a murder that were receiving notifications from other people, hey, did you hear about this incident? So one may have nothing to do with the other, but one could have something to do with the other.
It could be important.
I would take it into consideration, yes. That absolutely be a part of my consideration in examining the phone.
As a homicide investigator, you would take it into consideration whether someone told the owner of the phone about specifics of that event before they typed in the keywords.
Yes.
Okay. You are not suggesting that this is the white Audi with tinted windows that was rented to Shannon Stillwell, are you?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about that.
Okay. All right. This pink hat, 323 Victor Victor, if you would, Miss Knight. Thank you. You see that pink hat? And I think there's a better picture somewhere in here, but we're talking, and you have it in front of you.
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, that pink hat that's in that envelope. You aware that Mr. Stillwell was arrested on the same day in the white Audi wearing a pink hat?
No.
Okay. This pink hat would not have been something that you took from the scene and then somehow met up with Shannon Stillwell and gave it to him to wear for when he would be arrested, is it?
No.
Okay, so this is a completely separate pink hat. Isn't that correct?
I don't know when Mr. Stillwell was arrested or what the circumstances were, what time that was, if it was before or after the execution of this warrant. If I accept what you're telling me as fact, then sure, he was arrested before the pink hat, but I don't know. I just know that this hat was recovered in this car on March 17th. I put it in this envelope, sealed it, and put my initials on it, and that's the last time I saw it before today.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that answers the question. Now, in this car, you also found a gun, a very large gun. And that's what's in front of you on that table, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what
Well,
kind of gun?
no, that's the gun that went back to the ATF.
You're right. Thank you
Stolen
for that
firearm.
correction. And what type of gun was that?
That was a Ruger AR 5.56.
Okay. And that gun was found in this blue Audi, and it was also inside the blue Audi was a license in the name of Eric Moore.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And Eric Moore, did you investigate further into who Eric Moore was?
I believe I ran Eric Moore's driver's license at some point to identify who he was, but no, I didn't conduct any follow-up investigation into that aspect of the processing of this vehicle or its contents.
Okay. Okay. So that's the gun that was found in the blue Audi, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell's fingerprints are on that gun?
I don't physically have any evidence of that.
Wait a minute. So no fingerprints, no evidence, no firearm, just shell casings. These boys are clearly on defense, not offense. 2 different cars, 2 different hats, 2 different scenes. Not to even mention, y'all got a different Audi with a firearm in the car sitting right beside the state ID. Man, make that make sense. Now, it's interesting. Does it not seem like the state is actually targeting SB? Now, even more ironic, if you actually sit up and pay attention, the actual state's witness is actually helping the defense actually win this case. Because it doesn't matter if he comes up here and talks about fact evidence when he still can't tie any of the defendants directly to the case. This man's getting arrested while you over here raiding the other spot. Did he not look like he was thrown off? Now, even more ironic, if you pay attention, the defense definitely, as I said, has some work to put in because the state's big thing is moving on conspiracy. So what the defense has to do, especially YSL Shard, is take all of these situations with SB and definitely start to separate it all apart. Because if not, the state is going to move on one thing, and that's strictly conspiracy. Let's dig.
I believe the gun was taken by the crime scene technicians for additional processing. The results of that, I'm unfamiliar with.
Do you have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell's DNA is on that gun?
Not me. No, I believe the guns were processed for additional evidence, but to what extent and what those results are, I don't know. I don't have that evidence. I don't want to speak on behalf of the police department to say that the police department or the Georgia Bureau of Investigation does or does not. Kevin Leon Packard doesn't have DNA results.
Anyone that comes from the crime lab, I'm going to make sure I ask them the same questions. I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
So you don't have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell has ever touched this gun?
No, I don't. No.
All right. And let me ask you this. This gun, are you aware that Mr. Drinks, deceased Mr. Drinks, from the 3/14/2022 shooting was shot with .40 caliber ammunition?
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Does this gun shoot .40 caliber ammunition?
No.
All right. Excellent. Couple more questions. A 5.7 by 28 an FN gun, 5.7. Would that shoot .40 caliber bullets?
I would not expect it to, no.
Okay.
I'm not a firearms expert or a ballistics expert.
All right.
But no, I would not expect, especially given those cartridge cases, the 5.7 cartridge cases that we recovered, or the one cartridge case I recovered, it was an elongated cartridge case versus a 40 caliber is much shorter.
And an FNX 45, would that shoot .40 caliber bullets?
I don't know what an FNX 45 is.
Okay. Let me just ask you this, would a 45 caliber handgun shoot .40 caliber bullets?
I would not expect it to.
Okay.
I suppose under like a perfect set of circumstances, you might be able to put a 40 caliber cartridge in a 45 caliber firearm, and it may, under the right set of circumstances, a firing pin might strike it in the right place, but I wouldn't suggest it, nor would I overtly expect it to fire that round.
At least not correctly.
Not correctly. I think it's a bad idea to try.
Yeah. Okay. Is it fair to say that you don't have any information about any guns ballistically matching the shooting of Shamel Drinks?
If I ever came across any information about any ballistic matches or NIBIN correlations, I listed some in my report that I wrote following this incident. Mm-hmm. Whether or not those matched that shooting, I don't recall. Okay. And I did not conduct any follow-up investigation into any correlations that were made from anything found at Waters Road or elsewhere. How
about any of these guns matching the January 10, 2015 homicide of Donovan Thomas?
I'm not aware of any, if there were any NIBIN correlations to that incident, I'm unaware of them, and I did not conduct that investigation into the murder of Donovan Thomas.
Okay. One last thing. As part of your involvement in this case, did you ever get a chance to review, I know that we looked at photos from Windsor Street, did you ever get a chance to review the surveillance video from the FedEx on Windsor Street?
I don't want to misspeak and say that I never saw it because I know, again, Al Hogan sat 2 seats in front of me. Uh-huh. It's possible at one point I saw it on his screen, but I have no recollection of ever seeing that video.
Okay. Did you ever speak to any FedEx employees and ask them to just describe what they saw on the video? Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
So did this witness just help the state create guilt, or did he actually just help the state create reasonable doubt? Now, in my personal opinion, it's a lot of information and evidence that seems to be left out. And speaking of left out, ask yourself this. From that fatal night with Shamel Drinks, do we actually know who fired the shot at the light? Or is it all just speculation of what the state believes? Now, let's dig. Did the state actually just try to mislead the jury with another shaky witness? In my personal opinion, that's exactly what they just did. Now, we sat up here and watched another key witness from the state who you can clearly see was prepped by the state come up here and actually push a narrative that's formulated by the state. Now, even more interesting, how come every time we watch the defense actually come up on the cross-examination, you see that all the witnesses actually start to lose their patience. Now, this man started babbling when Shaw was actually up there ripping his story and his narrative apart because they knew right then they never had a suspect from the start. Why is it that all of these investigators never do a follow-up investigation? they just go off of what they believe, allegation and speculation, make that make sense. Even more interesting, what they did actually come out and charge did actually prove right there in front of the jury is that the shell casings didn't match. The night that the state is actually trying to pin on SB, the shell casings don't match. So it's interesting that they find all of these bullets, not one firearm that can actually make these defendants be attached. And speaking of attached, have you even heard any evidence about Yak? My personal opinion, this is where the state is trying to get that 2-for-1 deal. If they can get Shannon on some conspiracy, they'll still get Yak. Now, this is the interesting part because Weinstein and Shaw definitely have to make sure that they pay attention. These state witnesses are actually coming up and they're painting these actual defendants out to be the suspects, not the actual victims. So today, in my personal opinion, definitely big W for the defense. Man, what y'all think? Did Shaw actually get up here and do his part? Should SB actually have taken that plea? And what about Yak? Should Yak have taken his plea as well? Or are they doing the right thing, taking it all the way to the end? Man, y'all jump in the comments. Did this detective actually help the state, or did he actually just help the defense win? Now, we watched a whole bunch of different witnesses come up from the state to try to help narrate the actual case. But in my personal opinion, the case should have rested last week, especially when it came to the state. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know y'all's thoughts. Especially if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, man. Tap that notification bell so you'll get the drop whenever I drop. And always hit that like button. Remember, this case should go to show you, the greater the height, the greater the weight. The life you save might be your very own. Jump in the comments, y'all. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Until next time, go.